Okay. Oh. Okay, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Schedule. One, 3, 4, 4. Okay. 1, 3, 4, 4. Okay, here we are. Darshani. Ekta Sarvabhimana. Yeah. It's okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chakta Sarvabhimanaye Samastam Bhayavarjitam Vaikuntham Satchidanandam Gunatitam Padam Tatah. Those devotees who have abandoned every kind of false pride, those devotees have abandoned every kind of false pride, and they have attained the world beyond the material modes and devoid of all fear. Vaikuntha, which is Satchidananda, full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The residents of Vaikuntha are greater, not only than the materialists, Vishayis, the candidates for liberation, Mumukshus, and the liberated, Mukta, but even than Lord Shiva, the giver of liberation. According to his own view of himself, Lord Shiva is subject to the influence of false ego, whereas the devotees in Vaikuntha are free from this defect. By virtue of this freedom from false pride, Vaishnavas attain Vaikuntha, which in spite of being a particular place, is not temporary and illusory, like the places of the material world. Ye Vaikuntakhyam padam Vaikuntakhyam padam lokam prapta padatvepi na anityatvam mayikatvam cha yah Satchidananda. Therefore, it is Satchidananda. The eternal existence of Vaikuntha is full of pure consciousness and unlimitedly satisfying bliss. It is none of the restrictions of material existence. Many Puranas describe the absolute perfection of Vaikuntha. For example, in the conversation between Brahma and Narada in Shri Narada Pancharatra. We can read in the Jitante Stotra, Lokam Vaikuntanamanam Divya Shad Guna Samyutam Avaishnavanam Aprapyam Gunatraya Vivarjitam Nityasiddhai Samakirna Tanmayai Panchakalikai Sabha Prasada Samyuktam Vanaisopa Vanaishubham Vapi Kupa Tadagaischa Vriksha Shandai Sumanditam Aprakrita Surairvandyam Ayutarka Samaprabham. Impossible to attain for non-Vaishnavas. The world called Vaikuntha is devoid of the three material modes and full in the 6 divine traits. It is rich with eternally perfect souls who all have those same 6 traits and who appear in the 5 different ages of life. All auspicious Vaikuntha is beautied by many palaces and assembly halls, and by wells, tanks, ponds, gardens, forests, and groves of trees. That transcendental world worshipped by the demigods is more brilliantly effulgent than 10,000 suns. In the Brahmanda Purana, Tam Ananta Gunavasam Mahattejo Durasadam Aprathyaksham Nirupamam Paranandam Atindriyam. It is the abode of countless spiritual qualities, a world of unapproachable supreme light. It cannot be perceived by material senses nor compared to anything known. It is supremely ecstatic and beyond the scope of the senses. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, Tasmai Swalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita Sandarshayamasa Param Nayat Param Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam Swadrishtavadbhi Purushairabhishtatam Pravartate Yatra Mishram Nachakala Vikrama Nayatra Maya Kimuta Pare Harer Anuvrata Yatra Sura Surarchita. So, it is a world of unapproachable supreme light, you can see. Mahatteja. It is beyond that which is known to us and which is unknown to us in the material sense. Very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, the personality of Godhead, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all miseries and fear of illusory existence. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor have they any influence in goodness. There is no predominance of the influence of time. So what to speak of the illusory external energy? It cannot enter that region without discrimination. Both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. And in the 10th canto, Iti Sanchintya Bhagavan Mahakaruniko Harihi Darshayamasa Lokam Swam Gopanam Tamasah Param Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yad Brahma Jyoti Sanatanam Yadhi Pashyanti Munayo Gunapaye Samahita. Thus, deeply considering the situation of the cowherd man, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, revealed to them his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Lord Krishna revealed the indestructible spiritual effulgence, which is unlimited, conscious, and eternal. Sages see that spiritual existence in trance when their consciousness is free of the modes of material nature. These verses identify Vaikuntha with the Brahmajyoti, the effulgent light of the all-pervading Supreme. Brahma Vyapakam. Brahma means all-pervasive. So Brahmajyoti refers to the all-pervading effulgence. That is the same absolute existence described in the Upanishads under the name Brahman. With the eye of intelligence, self-satisfied sages, munis envision Vaikuntha, but they are not fit to achieve it. Pashyanti jnana chakshusha kevalam natu labhante ityarthaha. They just see they are not qualified to enter into Vaikuntha. So the spiritual world itself is considered to be Brahman. That because it is that spiritual sky, it is that is what is allowed to be perceived by those who haven't come to the point of pure devotion, but who have attained renunciation, detachment from this world. Tatriye Sachidananda Deha Parama Vaibhavam Sampraptam Sachidanandam Hari Sarshtim Navajan. In Vaikuntha, the residents of Sachidananda bodies may avail themselves of the supreme opulence of Lord Hari. They have Sachidananda powers equal to his, but the residents of Vaikuntha do not like to accept such equality with the Lord. The residents of Vaikuntha have individual bodily forms, but these are not forms of material illusion. As Yudhishthira Maharaj said in a question to Narada Muni, Dehendriya Suhinanam Vaikuntha Puravasinam. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses, or life air. Evam prakritair dehadebhirhinanam iti sachidananda vigrahatvam siddham. Vigrahatvam iti siddham. So because Yudhishthira Maharaj clearly says they don't have these, but at the same time he's referring to them as having forms. We understand that their forms are Sachidananda. The Vaikuntha Vasis are transcendental, and so also are their external opulences. Each resident has more power and wealth than are available in millions of material universes and their covering shells. These opulences, which the Vaikuntha residents achieve without effort and without limitations, are spiritual, eternal, and absolutely real. They are expansions of the Supreme Lord's divine energy, and so they are all infinitely desirable and full of variety. Logical and scriptural evidence of these facts will be presented later in Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. The residents of Vaikuntha have they respectfully do not accept these opulences, which are Sachidananda in nature. The opulences are certainly spiritual, but by dint of special potencies of the Supreme Lord, Bhagavad Shakti Visheshena, Madhura Madhuram, they're very sweet. They're Paramavaichitrim Nitam Sat. It is full of supreme variety. It exhibits the glory of all those who reside in Vaikuntha. Harer Bhaktya Param Prita Bhaktan Bhaktim Cha Sarvataha Rakshanto Vardhayantascha Sancharanti Yadrichaya. They are satisfied simply to worship Lord Hari with devotion. They travel freely wherever they want, protecting and promoting the cause of the Lord's devotees and the Lord's devotional service. Now, the reason for why they don't accept the opulences, even though the opulences are Sachidananda and in spiritual variety and bliss, they still don't accept it. Why? That is now stated here. The devotees in Vaikuntha do not want to equal Lord Vishnu because they want to serve him in loving devotion. Nothing other than bhakti gives them pleasure. In Lord Vishnu's own words, Maya Santushta Manasa Sarva Sukhamaya Dishaha. One whose mind is completely satisfied in me finds only happiness wherever he goes. Ateva Harer Bhaktanam Bhajane Pravrittam Atranam Bhaktinishtanam Swadeva Sarvasiddhe. A person who simply fixed in pure bhakti, he attains everything that he would need to attain. These eternally liberated Vaikuntha-vasis are always helping others. Acting in the material world, they protect sincere persons from misunderstanding the principles of devotional service and thereby falling down and being punished by the agents of Yamaraj. A good example is Ajamila. The Vaikuntha-vasis encourage the descent of advanced devotees into saintly families, act for the increased prosperity and influence of those devotees, and render unseen help to the devotees preaching, by which more and more conditioned jivas are brought back to Krishna consciousness. As instructing spiritual masters, the Vaikuntha-vasis and their representatives remove the obstacles of attachment to karma and jnana. It's also understood that they remove the obstacles of attachment to anyabhilashita, or this wanton, adharmic sense enjoyment, and inspire their disciples in various ways to dedicate themselves fully to Krishna's service. Because the residents of Vaikuntha are free from the restrictions of karma, their efforts never go in vain. So we can understand that the whole spiritual world is there to help us get back to Krishna's lotus feet. Straight taken from the Sri Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Muktan upahasanti vaikunthe satatam prabhum bhajantah pakshivrikshadirupayir vividha sevaya. Always worshipping the Lord in Vaikuntha, they seem amused by those who are merely liberated. The Vaikuntha-vasis are always busy in various services, for which they even take on forms like those of birds and trees. Kamala lalyamanangri kamalam modavardhanam sampashyanto harim sakshad ramante sahatena ye. They can always see him in person, Lord Hari, who inspires everyone's pleasure and whose lotus feet are cared for by the goddess of fortune. Their life in his company is pure joy. Nanu yadi evam bhutosau vaikuntalokaha katham tarhi tamasayonigata ivatiryak stavaradayas tatra shruyante. If this is the nature of the world of Vaikuntha, the population living in Vaikuntha, they are fully Sachidananda. How is it that we hear from the scriptures that there are animals, there are immobile creatures, which seem to be like tamasic living creatures? Tathacha tritiya skandhe Vaikuntha varnane. And there does seem to be a description of this in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam while describing Vaikuntha. You will see that here. Tatra ahamuktaniti. With that in mind, text 47 is introduced. Those who have attained liberation from material existence enjoy boundless varieties of loving service. Only foolish, unfortunate persons ignore such an opportunity and instead pursue an impersonal idea of liberation. Etadrisha vichitra bhajana mahasukham parityajya tad viruddham tukcham muktim te jagruhaveti upasamharati. So, these impersonalists, they are described as those who do not know the truth and nature of devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. They have accepted something which is insignificant in comparison to the services that are relished in Vaikuntha. They have accepted something which is quite in opposition to such exalted service in such variety. So they have been described in this manner. Only foolish, unfortunate persons ignore such an opportunity and instead pursue an impersonal idea of liberation. The devotees in Vaikuntha feel compassion for the impersonalists But it seems that while exuberantly serving Lord Narayana, the devotees ridicule the impersonalists by taking on the forms of animals, birds, and plants. Impersonalists cannot understand the difference between the tamasic forms of lower life in the material world and the transcendental varieties of life in Vaikuntha. This is simply this is the nature of spiritual variety. Still, Vaikuntha devotees never actually make fun of others to belittle them, because devotees are always kind to the fallen. The Vaikuntha devotees never engage in useless frivolity. They don't uselessly waste their time in various forms of sports, which is a deviation from the mood of pure devotion. Bhaktir rasaika nimagnatvacha, because they are immersed, they are fully immersed in the rasa of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That many kinds of animals and plants live in Vaikuntha, and that they all enthusiastically serve the Supreme Person is confirmed by the description of Srimad Bhagavatam. Paravatanya Vrutasara Sachakravaka Datyuha Hamsa Shukatitiribarhinam Yah Ola Halo Viramate Chiramatramuchay Hringathipe Arikatham Iva Gaya Mane Mandara Kunda Urabotpala Champakarna Punna Ganagabakulambu Japari Jata Gandhe Yute Tulasika Paranena Tasya Yasmim Stapa Sumanaso Bahumanayanti. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. The flowering plants like the Arna, Kunda, Utpala, Champaka, Bakula, Ambuja, Mandara, Punnaga, Purabaka, Parijata, and Nagakesha are full of transcendental fragrance. But still, they are conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, for Tulasi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulasi leaves. Sakshat Sampashyanti iti Vartamana Nideshenam Darshana Aviratirupa. Lord Shiva uses the present form Sampashyantaha, seeing, present, continuous, to indicate that Vaikuntha devotees see the Lord without interruption. Tatha atena harinasaha sakshat ramante iti. By this he implies that he, in contrast, okay, so from this it's understood they directly enjoy the association of Lord Hari. Evam vayam kadachideva pashyamas kridamascha. By this he implies that he, in contrast, can see Lord Vishnu infrequently, and then only within his heart. Tacha prayo dhyane naivetya taste asmattaha adhika krishna anugrahachaya. Most of the time, only in my heart, in meditation, I get to see Lord Krishna. Therefore, they are superior recipients of Krishna's anugraha, mercy. Apitu atah paramashreshtha iti bhava. So it implies that they are the greatest devotees. Aho karunya mahima Shri Krishnasya kutonyataha Vaikuntha loke yojasram tadiyeshu cha rajate. Where else can one see compassion so exalted as that which Sri Krishna showered constantly on the residents of Vaikuntha Loka? Na kutrapi ityarthaha. Nowhere else. That is understood. Yasmin mahamuda shrantam prabho sankirtanadibhihi vichitram antara bhaktim nastyanyat prema vahini. In Vaikuntha, nothing exists but devotional service rendered through Sankirtan and in many other forms. It goes on incessantly with great enthusiasm, spreading the ecstasy of pure love. Tadevaha. Yasmin. that great glory of Krishna's mercy that is permanently and uninterruptedly found in the residents of Vaikuntha is manifest through such engagement in devotional service. Devotees in the spiritual world never tire of chanting the Supreme Lord's glories and singing and dancing for his pleasure. Singing, dancing, services, personal services, menial services, Geeta, Nritya, Paricharya, Adini, and other activities. They engage in a variety of different services. Ya Prabhu Reva Vichitra Bhaktir Bahu Prakara Bhajanam. They engage in a different types of devotional service, many forms of devotional service. Tamantara Vinanyat Kimapi Cheshtadikam Nasti. They don't engage in any activity other than the activities of devotional service. So Vaika Pravartate, that alone is being done. Even ordinary activities, anything anyone does in Vaikuntha is pure service and nothing else, because all the residents are fixed unswervingly in bhakti. Tatratyam sarvam eva vyavaharadikam api tad bhakti rasa plutam eva iti artha. Even their ordinary customary activities, everything is imbued with Bhagavad Bhakti Rasa, the mellows of devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. Their Prema Bhakti is the only activity. That they are habituated to that. Ho tat pramananda rasabdher mahiman bhutaha brahmananda stulamnar hedyat kanardham shakyenacha. How amazing is the supremely great ocean of transcendental bliss. The bliss of Brahman cannot compare to even a fraction of half a drop of it. Brahmanandaha Swarupa Anubhava Sukham. Brahmananda is happiness derived from realizing one's spiritual identity. Compared to the joy of sharing one's personal relationship with the Supreme Spirit, Brahmananda is insignificant. So, that is actually a Vedic pathway of how one progresses. There is a way by which one attains Brahman realization, which simply means one realizes it's not the body and that he is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. And after that realization, he engages in high intensity devotional service. Then he attains Paramatma realization. After which he engages in full intensity devotional service and relishes Bhagavan realization. But that is a slow pathway that takes several lifetimes to do that, because there is always a speed breaker of realization. Whereas the fastest pathway is you give up everything, sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. You give up all anyabhilashita, we give up all sins, offenses. We give up even our material duties, family duties, everything. Fully engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And one simultaneously attains Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, Bhagavan realization. And there are pathways, then there are pathways which are in between, by which one grows in Krishna consciousness within one's life. And then he becomes fully qualified to attain love of Godhead. But there is a pathway by which Brahman realization is a speed breaker. Only after one attains that, then one goes to the next. That is a slow pathway. Lord Krishna refers to that in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in the fast pathway, you don't wait for Brahman realization. You have knowledge about Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, knowledge about our relationship with Krishna. That knowledge, further matured into understanding, is considered enough. You don't need to wait for realization. One can directly come to that point. But in the other sampradayas, one is not allowed to come to the point of full-fledged engagement in devotional service unto Bhagavan unless one has attained that level of realization. And whether one has attained a certain level of realization or not can be invariably understood, experienced, verified with certain symptoms. There are symptoms of a Sthita Prajna, there are symptoms of a Gunatita, there are symptoms of a transcendental Vaishnava. So after those symptoms are manifested, only then one is allowed to give up all forms of dharma. We will see a basic outline of these when we come to the second part of Bhagavatamrita. At any rate, whether you're going by the steps or you're going by the lift or a combination, ultimately when you come to the goal, then that thing is not, you're not considered inferior if you came through a slower pathway. You come to the goal. All is well that ends well. So Vaikunthas tadiyascha tatratyam akhilam chayyat tadeva Krishna padabja parapremanu kampitam. That Vaikuntha world, its residents and everything there are blessed by the mercy of pure love for the lotus feet of Krishna. In contrast, Lord Shiva implies his own planet and other material worlds do not have the blessings of Krishna Prema. Tadrikkarunya patranam Srimad Vaikuntha Vasinam Mattu Dhikataras Tattan Mahima Kimnu Varnyattam. As recipients of such mercy, the divine residents of Vaikuntha are much greater than I in many ways. How can I adequately describe their glories? Every resident of Vaikuntha is Sriman, entirely favored by the goddess of fortune, the consort of the Supreme Lord. Each of them, therefore, has access to the full wealth and power found in millions of universes, unlimited universes. Pratyekam anantakotim brahmanda vaibhaveshu nitya satya mahasukham aeshu satsopi vichitra prema bhakti sampattireva dhyaya. But because the Vaikuntha Vasis are pure devotees, they prefer not to take advantage of these blessings for anything but the opportunity to serve their Lord. This distinguishes them from the conditioned souls of the material world. So they are distinct from everyone else, those residing in Shivaloka, those who are residing in Devi Dham, in material existence also. And Ramanujacharya teaches his followers, Sarvavastochita shesha sheshataikaratistav bhaveyam pundarikakshattvame vaivam kurushvama. Please make me filled with the spiritual desire to serve you at all times, place, circumstances, in every possible manner. And so that I become qualified to do this and only this. And even then to serve you in every possible manner. So this is the place for those who have such attitudes. Pancha bhautika deha ye martyaloka nivasinaha bhagavad bhakti rasika namasyam adrisham sada. Though living within the material world in bodies composed of the 5 elements, persons expert in relishing devotion service to the Lord are always worshipable for persons like me. Madrisham namasya iti tepi mattu adhika taraha ityartha. They are always worshipable for persons like me means they're always superior to persons like me. Wherever in the material world the mood of Vaikuntha is found, Lord Shiva worships the carriers of that mood as his superiors. He expresses the same attitude in the Narayana Vyuhastava of the Hayashirsha Pancharatra. Ye tyaktaloka dharmartha Vishnu bhakti vashamgata bhajanti Paramatmanam tebhyo nityam namo namaha. To those who have come under the influence of pure devotion for Vishnu and have therefore abandoned their worldly religious duties and profitable endeavors, just to worship the soul of souls, I constantly offer my repeated respects. Shri Krishna Charanam Bhojar Pitatmano Ye Shri Krishna Charanam Bhojar Pitatmano Hi Ye Kila Tadeka Prema Labha Sha Yakartha Janani Jivana. Such expert religious surrender themselves fully to the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. Hoping to attain exclusive love for him, they abandon their wealth, their families, and their very lives. Bhakti Rasikatam Darshayam Stan Vishinashti Shri Krishna iti Chaturukhi. He now points out that they are connoisseurs of pure devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. He states this in 4 verses, beginning with text 55. Aihika mushmika shesha sadhya sadhana nisprha jati varnasham achara dharma dhinatva paraga. They are not interested in any of the means and ends of success in this world or the next. They have gone beyond subservience to the rules that apply according to birth, occupation, and spiritual status. Rinatrayad anirmukta vedamargati gapi. No, Rinatrayad anirmukta vedamargati ga api. Haribhakti balavegad akutashyan bhaya sada. Even if they have not repaid their 3 debts and are therefore transgressing Vedic principles by the power of their devotion to, they are ever fearless. These are all Nirapeksha sadhakas. Nanyat kimapi vanchanti tad bhaktir rasalam patah swarga pavarga narake shwapitulyartha darshinaha. Greedy to taste the pleasure of devotion to him. They have no desire for anything else. To them, liberation, heaven, and hell all appear the same. So these are sadhakas in pure devotional service who will certainly be gifted bhava bhakti and then prema bhakti. So these sadhakas, these are the ones compared to the green mango. 4 verses, in case anybody wants to note. These 4 verses, symptoms found in these 4 verses. These are good, these constitute a good description of a Nirapeksha Vaishnava. Okay, fearlessness and freedom from selfish desires are spontaneous symptoms of those who enjoy the transcendental tastes of Krishna consciousness. Prabhu Charanambo Jayor Yad Ekam Prema Tal Labhe Ashaya Vancha Matrena. They have only one ambition in life. They want to attain love of Godhead, love for the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Simply by that ambition, Yaktartha Dhanani, they have given up their wealth, Jana, Putra, Kalatra, Alayaha, their sons, wives, and so on. Jivanam cha, Pranadya Prekshanam Yaiste. They have also given up the desire to live in this body and so on. The residents of Vaikuntha are already perfect, but they humbly think themselves only potential candidates for Prema Bhakti. Now, those who are in the mood of pure devotional service unto the Supreme Lord are equated with the residents of Vaikuntha. The residents of Vaikuntha, they consider that they need to attain Prema Bhakti. But you also have souls in this world who are as good as residents of Vaikuntha. Aspiring to be awarded exclusive love of God, they abandon attachment to property and family. They are not even interested in protecting themselves from threats to their lives. Ateva ahikani etalloka sambandhini amushmikani cha paraloka sambandhini yani asheshani sadhyani vishaya bhogadi sukhani tat sadhanani cha dhana uparjana dharma acharana adini teshu nispriha kamahina. Since they have no desire for the worldly goals of prestige, security, and sense enjoyment, they have no urge to work to earn the money and pious credits required for obtaining these objects of desire. Ateva jato manushyatva adav, varne vipratva adav, ashrame brahmacharya adav, achara dharma teshu yad adhinatvam nityanaimitikatvena avashyakartavyatva tattat paratantriyam tasmat paragaha tat atikrantaha ityartha. So they have transcended their dependence on their duties according to birth, according to varna, according to ashrama, as well as standard rules of civilized behavior in terms of their daily and occasional duties. They've transcended these. And as a further consequence of their freedom from material ambition, they have transcended identifying the self in terms of material social divisions, the Brahmana caste, and other occupational designations, and even human and demigod species. They have risen above the regular and occasional obligations of all these categories. See, in Vedic Dharma, there are so many restrictions that are given. There are duties. It is just a network of duties. All of these are very useful for those who are obsessed with sense enjoyment, because it gradually disciplines us to become selfless and to become qualified for spiritual realization. But they don't apply to one who has attained the obsessive ambition to attain pure love of Godhead. And that alone, it is one thing to have a desire for prema bhakti alone, and it's another thing that I want kama, artha, dharma, moksha, prema. I want everything. So the vast majority of us have a desire for everything. Actually, we want a comfortable life, we want money, and we want some pious credits just in case. We have a desire for freedom from the pangs of material existence, and we want to attain love of God. But these personalities who are being described here, they're nirapekshas. They don't have any desire other than to attain love of Krishna, which implies that even if you take away a comfortable life, you take away all that money, you take away their pious credits, and you prevent them from attaining freedom from material existence, the pangs of distress found in material existence, still they just want to attain love of God, and basically what they want is they want to come to a point where they can selflessly serve the Supreme Lord with pure affection. That's the only thing that they want. So it's kind of inconceivable how a person can be like that. But through the parampara of mercy coming from the spiritual world, it becomes possible in material existence also. Ranatrayam, the three debts. From the very day of one's birth, one is encumbered with three kinds of debts. To the demigods who provide the basic needs of life, one owes the performance of sacrifice. To the parents from whom one inherits the good karma and cultural heritage of one's family, one owes offspring. And to the sages who teach how to fulfill the spiritual potential of human life, one owes study of the Vedas. One who fails to absolve oneself from these debts by doing what is required and avoiding what is forbidden can expect severe punishment from Yamaraj, the judge of the sinful. Pranais tribhir dvijo jato devarship pitranam prabho. Yagyad jhena putraistan yanista anistir yat yajan patit. Dear Prabhu, a member of the twice-born classes, is born with three kinds of debts. Those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to his forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying the scriptures, and begetting children, he will fall down into a hellish condition. But these personalities, they are freed from these three debts. Shri Krishna Charanamuje Kritatma Nivedanatvat Rinatrayam Janma Matrena Devashi Pitrinam Ya. Okay. Anirmukta, they even though they have not fulfilled these three debts, there is no need, they don't have any problems. This is the force of Hari Bhakti. The residents of Vaikuntha, however, are immune from the reactions for neglecting the laws of material nature. These Vaikuntha residents need not perform ritual sacrifices, beget sons, or study the texts of the Vedas. They have no fear of karmic retribution. Nothing they do can be sinful. They can act confidently, however they wish, on the strength of their pure devotion to Lord Vishnu. This also applies to those in material existence who are by consciousness living in Vaikuntha. When we talk about the resident of Vaikuntha, it is not that we are talking only about those who are so-called physically in Vaikuntha. But here itself, we will see Prahlad Maharaj. He will be described as the best amongst the residents of Vaikuntha, even though Prahlad Maharaj is here. Pure devotional service exempts Vaishnavas from the karmic obligations of non-devotees, as Lord Krishna has explained to two of his most trustworthy devotees, Uddhava and Arjuna. Evam bhaktasya karmasu anadhikarat papadya bhavena sada swateva akutaschid bhayatvam yuktameva. So those who are nirapeksha sadhakas, those who have given up both adharma and dharma, they have given up adharma and they have given up material dharma and only engage in the spiritual dharma of bhakti, bhakti yoga. Such devotees, they are not obligated to participate in the karma system. They do not have any sinful reactions. They are at all times and naturally free from all dangers. This has been stated in the 11th canto and in Sri Bhagavad Gita. Tavat karmani kurvita, dhan nirvidyeta yavata, mat katha shravanado va, shraddha yavanna jayate. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotion service by Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So here in both places, we come across an upper limit for engagement in material dharma. In some other sampradayas, this is not, such an understanding is not allowed. In the Ramanuja school, you're not allowed to break. You're not allowed to become indifferent to material dharma. Their pathway is the Parinishtita pathway. Actually, it's not the Nirapeksha line. It is a Parinishtita line. At least to do good to the world of non-devotees, one has to accept the framework of the Varnashrama system in their line, just for others' sake. Doing it for others' sake is considered to be practically, it's considered to be just for motivating others. It's more of a preaching technique. And therefore, they are practically as good as not engaging in material dharma, because they're only doing it for others. It's a role play, just to benefit others. But the Nirapekshas, they don't even do role play. Sri Narada also gave the same instruction to Vyasadeva. Yak vaspadharmam charanambujam hare bhajanna pakvotha pate tato yadi yatra pavabhadram abhudamushyakim ovartha apto bhajatam swadharmataha. One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. Itham bhayarahitya muktva sarvan nairapekshamaha neti. So in that way, they have no dangers. There's no need to be frightened of any obstacle and so on. They are absolutely indifferent, no interest in anything else. These are the nirapeksha. The fearless residents of Vaikuntha are also free from all selfish concerns. They have no interest in transcendental perfection, such as a personal form like the Supreme Lord's. What to speak of the refined sense enjoyment of the residents of Lord Brahma's planet or the happiness of impersonal nirvana? They, in fact, consider all of these to be given up in the eyes of the residents of Vaikuntha. Everything other than pure love of God is not only insignificant, but also detrimental to the advancement of bhakti. Thus, they consider impersonal liberation and being elevated to heaven the same as being sent to hell. Speaking here to Narada, Lord Shiva echoes his own words from the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. Narayana paras sarve na kutaschana bibhyati swargapavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. So for them, they don't have any reason to go to Swarga. They have no reason to go to Apavarga. They have no reason to go to Naraka. They have no interest in going to any of these 3 places. They just want to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead's lotus feet. That's all. So they're not interested in any of this. Bhagavan iva satyam me ta eva paramapriya paramaprarthaniyascha mamatai sahasangamaha. Truly I tell you, such devotees are as limitlessly dear to me as the Supreme Lord himself. My ambition is to have their company. Bhagavad Bhakta eva natu Nandishwaradaya. Lord Shiva has higher regard for pure Vaishnavas than his own associates headed by Nandishwara. Pratuktam Shri Shivenaiva Chaturtha Skandhepi Dasha Prachetasah Prati. That was stated by Lord Shiva, Shri Shiva himself in the 4th canto to the 10 Prachetas. As Lord Shiva told the 10 Pracheta brothers, Atha Bhagavata Yuyam Priyastha Bhagavan Yatha Na Mad Bhagavatanam cha preyananyosti karhicha. You're all devotees of the Lord. And so I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. I know that the devotees also respect me in this way and that I am dear to them. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. Notice here, the Prachetas, they listened to Narada Muni and they became nirapeksha. They simply gave up everything else. They simply wanted to engage in devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. That's all. And therefore, Lord Shiva was very happy with them. They wanted to simply serve the Supreme Lord. It is that desire to exclusively serve the Supreme Lord that is the hallmark of Vaikuntha. And therefore, Lord Shiva was very happy with them. Was very happy with them. Therefore, here also, Lord Shiva is talking about how much he is happy with such devotees. Those who have accepted the Vaikuntha spirit. And it is the Vaikuntha spirit that all I need to do is engage in devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. Naradaham idam manye tadrishanam yatastitihi bhavetsa eva Vaikuntho loko natra vicharana. In my opinion, dear Narada, anywhere such devotees are found is actually Vaikuntha Loka. Arguing against this fact would be useless. Nacha Martyaloka Nivasitvena Tesham Vaikuntha Vasibhyam Nunatvamityaha. For Lord Shiva, pure Vaishnavas living on earth or anywhere else are no less glorious than the residents of Vaikuntha. So one should not think that because they are living in the world of mortals, they are inferior to those who live in Vaikuntha. Vaishnavas should never be judged by whether they live in Lord Vishnu's kingdom or not, because one who possesses the treasure of Prema Bhakti always has the Lord living with him. Vaikuntha Van Bhakti Sampatte Bhagavat Avasthanacha Yathoktam Bhagavata. Those who are engaged in exclusive devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. Now, exclusive devotional service unto the Supreme Lord is that green mango. It is just going to ripen into yellow mango. But because they have that, therefore they are considered to be on the platform of Vaikuntha. The personality of Godhead himself has said, Naham vasami Vaikunthe, na yogi hridaya ravav, mad bhakta yatra gayanti tatra tisthami narada. I do not live in Vaikuntha, in the hearts of the yogis, or inside the sun. Rather, my dear Narada, I am present wherever my devotees sing about me. Krishna Bhakti Sudhapana Dehadaihika Vismrite Tesham Bhautika Dehepi Sachidananda Rupata. Having drunk the nectar of devotion to Krishna, those devotees forget their material bodies and relationships. Thus, even while living in material bodies, they assume the transcendental nature of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Nano ete pancha bhautika vinashvara shariraha techa sachidananda vigrahaha. One might question how devotees living on earth and in Vaikuntha can be equal. Don't the residents of earth have bodies made of material energy, temporary bodies made of material energy, while the residents of Vaikuntha have transcendental Sachidananda bodies? Tatraha Krishneti. In that regard, Lord Shiva speaks this verse. But Lord Shiva confirms the equality of these devotees nonetheless. Vaishnavas pay little attention to their gross and subtle material bodies and to bodily relationships. These are all the Nirapeksha Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas do not consider the body their own property, and so are indifferent in this regard. Having overcome the obstacles of bodily attachment, the devotees living in the material world enjoy the nectar of Prema Bhakti without distraction and are therefore equal to the residents of Vaikuntha. Sthula Sukshma Sharirayo Aham Ta Aspadayo. The gross body and subtle body are the platforms of possessiveness. One can be possessive about one's subtle body or gross body. Taihikanamcha tattat sambandhina mamatva aspadana. And anything connected to one's gross body and subtle body is a platform for mamata, possessiveness of a different type. One identifies himself with his subtle body or gross body. So it is an identification of this type, that I am this. But with anything which is connected to one's gross body and subtle body, there is another type of identification. This is mine. It's an identification of possessiveness, not an identification of oneself. Putra kalatra adinam, vishaya bhoga adinam cha. And this refers to one's sons, wives, and so on. And it refers to enjoyment of the senses and so on. Usmrite, anusandhana abhava. But those who are Vaishnavas of this time, they don't pursue any of this. So therefore, even though they have bodies made up of the 5 gross elements, they are having the nature of those who possess Sachidananda Vigraha. Ayamarthaha, this is the point. तत्तद्धेतुक विघ्न बाधा राहित्येन निरंतर भक्ति सुधापान संपत्त्या वैकुंठवासी साम्य आपत्तेः पांच भौतिक शरीरिणाम अपि तेषां सच्चिदानंद रूपता एव पर्यवस्यतीति. Actually speaking, because they have no obstacles, none of the obstacles that others experience in their uninterrupted drinking of the nectar of bhakti, because they possess such a treasure that is the same as the treasure that is possessed by the residents of Vaikuntha. So even though they have bodies composed of the five gross elements, one must conclude that their forms are factually Sachidananda. Also, apart from this, Madhya Shariramapi Sachidananda Rupena Parinamed ityartha. Even a mortal body can be transformed into a Sachidananda form. Yathoktam Shri Maitreyena Chaturtha Skandhe Shri Dhruvasya Paramapada Arohana Prasangi. And this has been noted by Shri Maitreya in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, while talking about Shri Dhruva's attainment of elevation to the supreme abode. A devotee's material body may literally transform into a spiritual one, like the body of Dhruva Maharaj just before his ascent to Vaikuntha, as described by Maitreya Rishi. Parityabhyarchya dhishnyagriyam parshadavabhivandyacha yeshatat adhishtatum bibhradrupam hiranmayam. Before getting aboard the Vaikuntha airplane, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped and circumambulated it, and also offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the meantime, he became as brilliant and illuminating as molten gold. He was thus completely prepared to board the transcendental plane. Vyakhyatam Chatra Sridhara Swami Padai. The revered Sridhara Swami has explained this verse. Tadeva Rupam Hiranmayam Prakasha Bahulam Vibhrat San. Hiranmayatvam Cha Prakashamayatvam Chid Ghanatva Adhibir Yeyam. Commenting on this verse, Sridhar Swami explains Hiranyamayam as being full of effulgence. In other words, Dhruva Maharaj obtained a new body made of pure spiritual energy. To thus obtain a better body is quite possible. Sanatana Goswami mentions that even drinking a special herbal tonic can give one a more attractive material body. Then what to speak of the attractive form one can attain by always drinking the transcendental tonic of Bhakti Rasa. So these are the Nirabhaksha Vaishnavas are very exalted personalities. They are factually as good as the residents of Vaikuntha itself. All right. Okay. Okay, first of all, Dandot Pranam. Here are some questions. In what stage does a sadhaka devotee become completely free from his past karmic reactions? When he executes Uttama Bhakti, Anya Vilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Janavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shiladam Bhakti Uttama. So even if he is on the platform of pure sadhana bhakti, then he attains that. Tavat karmani kurvita. As long as one has not awakened taste for devotional service. What is taste for devotional service? Well, literally, it says Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has pointed out. Wait, let me trace it out. It's something good. You may not understand it, but nevertheless, I'll trace it out. It's a very interesting thing. In his second commentary to Bhagavad Gita, at the end of chapter 6, he quotes this verse. I'm going to take it. Okay, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that he's talking about Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, and he's saying towards the end, he says that one moves from karma. I'm paraphrasing in my own words. One moves from the platform of karma to the platform of jnana to the platform of yoga, and then he comes to the platform of bhakti. Harurukshavasthai karma yoga, arudhavasthai prathame jnana yoga, charame bhakti yoga. When one has a desire to progress in spiritual realization, he engages in karma yoga. And then when he has advanced, he comes first to the platform of jnana yoga and then to the platform of bhakti yoga. ये अध्याय शेषे शेष श्लोके आर एक प्रकार भक्ति योगेर कथा उल्लेखित आछे. In the final verse of chapter 6, which is yoginam api sarvesham, there is a reference to another type of bhakti yoga. So remember, there is one type of bhakti yoga which you come to after you graduate from jnana yoga, and you enter into jnana yoga after you graduate from karma yoga. That is one, but there's another way. The other way is to engage in bhakti absolutely. Avat karmani kurvita na nirvidyate yavata mat katha shravanado va shraddha yavanna jayate. One must engage in one's material duties as long as he is not renounced and detached, or as long as unbreakable faith in the process of hearing discussions about Krishna and so on has not arisen. So there are two options here. One is until one comes to the point of absolute renunciation, detachment. The other is, or unless one develops unbreakable faith in the process of devotion service, beginning with Shravanam, that means Navita Bhakti. Evam Srimad Bhagavati Ekadash Skandir Vakya Anusare Sthir Hoye. So from this 11th canto verse, it is concluded that Je Samaye Manave Harikothai Shraddha Hoy. The time when a man develops Shraddha, unbreakable faith in Harikatha, in the message of Lord Hari. She Samaye Dvitiya Prakar Bhakti Yoga Udaya Hoy. Then the second type of Bhakti Yoga arises. The second type of Bhakti Yoga is Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samay yukta tamo mata. Notice that the last verse of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks about uninterrupted engagement in Bhakti Yoga. It is not you just add Krishna to your life. It's not like that. Krishna, you have not added Krishna to your life, nor have you even made Krishna the center of your life. Krishna is your only life. So this is a direct engagement in the highest version of Bhakti Yoga. That is considered to be a second type of Bhakti Yoga. Karma korte korte phal nirved hoile pratham prakar bhakti yoga hoy. As one executes his karma, his material duties, as he continues doing that, he will develop indifference. He will develop detachment, renunciation towards the results of these material activities, which means sense enjoyment and so on. Then one comes to the platform of jnana, and then one comes to the platform of bhakti. So in that way, one comes to the point of complete engagement in bhakti. That is attainment of the first type of bhakti yoga. Tadapeksha dvitiya prakar bhakti yoga shrestha. But the second type of engagement in bhakti yoga, is superior to that. Pratham prakar bhakti yoga naam nirved janita bhakti yoga. The first type of bhakti yoga is called nirved janita bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga born out of detachment and renunciation. Evam dvitiya prakar bhakti yoga naam shraddha janita bhakti yoga. And the second type of bhakti yoga is called shraddha janita bhakti yoga. Bhakti Yoga, which is born out of Shraddha, unbreakable faith. उदित होइले पर उभय प्रकार भक्ति योगे एक ही आकार धारण करे. After these two types of bhakti yoga have arisen, they have the same form, same nature. Shraddha janita bhakti yoga jiver sahaj. Bhakti yoga born out of unbreakable faith, that is natural to the jivas. Taha madhya choy adhyaye kathita hoibe. They will be described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So that verse sets out an upper limit for engagement in material dharma, very prominently found in Srimad Bhagavatam. This particular teaching is very prominently found in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it can be easily misunderstood unless one is sufficiently careful. One might give up his material duties when he is not fit for it. He's not engaged in uninterrupted bhakti yoga on one hand, nor has he attained detachment and renunciation on the other hand. So then he's just unnecessarily putting himself in trouble. Okay. Any questions? Okay, no questions. Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. If you have any further questions, you can bring it up in the Telegram group. Hare Krishna.